We are finally inside Francesco's shop, so we're just having a look at where they sell the cheeses every single day for the locals. So you can see that some of the cheeses have been shaped in the form of a hen, because here in Italy for Easter we have hens and not rabbits. Interestingly, here we have cannoli. So the lady, Francesco's mom, is going to fill us cannolo fresh with ricotta. They also produce ice cream in the summer. So here we have a counter for ice creams called Dolce Vita, in a homage to the famous film by Fellini. So I'm finally sampling one of Francesco's cannoli. I don't know if it will be the same thing as in Sicily, but if not, it's going to be very, very close. So let's try it. It is one hell of a good cannolo. We are down below the dairy in some of the fridges. These are not fridges used for conservation, but fridges used for aging the cheese. And Francesco found that the cheese he produced outside of the fridges in the month of January was the best. So what they did here was try to reproduce the same conditions you would have in the month of January. So you can see that the temperature is around 7 Celsius, and the humidity level or moisture level is anything between 75 and 85%. So here his caciotte become naturally runny, so he called them caciotta stracchinata. Stracchino is a cheese produced in the north of Italy. So he wants to produce a caciotta that's got slightly bloomy rind and is very fresh and very runny in texture. When coming down the stairs I could smell truffles, and indeed Francesco made some cheese with truffles this morning. Here the cheeses are fresh, and you can see the difference in thickness between the fresher cheeses and the cheeses that have been aged more. So naturally, this being the south of Italy, Francesco produces cheeses with the layering method. So caciocavalli, we have many caciocavalli and provoloni hanging around in this other cell. You can obviously tell that these are the fresher ones, the ones that haven't been aged so long yet. Here we have some very large provoloni, so you can tell just by my hand being here how big they are. They are called mandarone, like a giant mandarin. And this is actually not a fridge, but this wall that you can see running across the whole room is very, very humid, and there's even water seeping out of the wall naturally from here. So this is how they keep their levels of moisture and humidity in the air. So here we have Francesco's caciocavalli made with the milk from his red mottled cows. But here, with a collaboration project, we have another cheese aging, Caciocavallo Podolico, so the milk comes from around region Basilicata. And interestingly, the molds growing on this cheese are completely different. You can tell in color from the molds growing on Francesco's cheeses. Whenever you see a red net around the cheeses, it means that Francesco used a different kind of rennet. In this case, it's goat's rennet. So the cheese will be more pungent in time, in due course. So this is a fun moment. Francesco threatened me He said he would shut me inside the fridge, but then he had second thoughts about it because he reckoned I could survive a very long time just by eating the cheese constantly and then running back and forth to keep warm. Good survival strategy, good idea. I think I'll do just that. These wooden bowls were used previously to make caciocavallo because the wood retained bacterial flora to mature the milk just before the cheese was made. Now they have changed the process and it's a little bit more controlled because they use the whey from the day before, heated at 35 degrees Celsius, so it can develop the same qualities but in a more controlled way. So these have been stored away for future use. This guy here is called spino. So it's a stick traditionally made of wood, but this is the stainless steel version. And it's what the cheesemaker uses to break up the cheese mass once the milk has coagulated. So I would be breaking up the cheese mass, a very delicate operation that must only be performed by a true expert. This piece here is called girello, and Francesco is just miming churning the milk the correct way. So when you're mixing the milk with rennet, you don't want to create any kind of rotation because the rennet prefers to work with the milk that is resting, so to say.
E si fa servizio sopra. Poi dopo qualche minuto si fa così, in modo che tu fai girare così.
So Francesco is saying up and down for a few minutes and then let the cheese mass rest and then twirl and finally break. Twirl and finally break. So one universal criteria is that you need to break the cheese mass as finely as possible if you're going to produce a cheese that has to age a lot. This cheese drying and expelling away is what Francesco calls lattica, so very milky, fresh cheese, almost like yogurt with an important rich acidy taste, very, very smooth, and it has probiotic properties and qualities, which means basically if you have any digestion issue, it helps fix the floral bacteria in your intestine. So it's almost like a natural medicine. Francesco is just going to give us his lineup of star cheeses. This is caciotta stracchinata, the one we saw earlier with the mold. This is primo sale, so very fresh cheese, 2 or 3 days.
Ricotta di Fuscella.
Ricotta di Fuscella, which means the finest grain of ricotta, also usable for cakes.
Ricotta salata.
Salted ricotta, so a different texture, typically consumed at Easter in Italy. Scamorzina, so a baby caciocavallo that unfortunately will not survive. Caciocolomba, our favorite hen. Primo sale, which is a very fresh cheese produced a couple of days ago. Fior di latte, which is the cow's milk version of mozzarella. So it's cut by hand without the use of any machines. Young caciocavallo, so you can see the holes inside, technically occhiatura in Italian. So remember this if you want to look cool talking about Italian caciocavallo. Aged caciocavallo. Aged caciocavallo. Quanti mesi?
Questo c'ha un anno, giusto un anno.
1 year old.
Caciocavallo.
Caciocavallo with grape peel. So this is called ubriaco, or drunken cheese in Italian. Toma. So toma is basically a classic piece of cheese, and this is a term very much in use in the north of Italy. Aged caciotta, so just a little bit older.
Questa invece è una caciotta trattata con il più potente antibatterico naturale che è il peperoncino, il più potente antimuffa che è l'aceto e un buon emoliente che è l'olio, quindi olio d'oliva, aceto e peperoncino.
So this is a conciato, a cheese that has been treated with red pepper, with vinegar and with olive oil. This is the caciocavallo mandarone, the big one that we saw earlier downstairs.
Di 3 anni fa. Toma di Pietro Parisi, il mio amico chef.
This is an experiment. It's a grana cheese that Francesco created. This is the very last slice, and it's 3 years old. This is Francesco's milk, so very precious and high quality.
Prosciutto di rucola e ricotta.
So this is typical in the south of Italy. We take a cheese and we create a wrap with rocket, with raw ham, that is parma, and ricotta inside. And then when you slice it, you get this barrel effect.
Yogurt con probiotico.
This is the probiotic yogurt made with his lattica we saw earlier. Finally, these are Francesco's cheese cakes. So this one has an apricot jam and a biscuit at the bottom. This is the lactic cheese cream, so you can spread it on bread, on crackers. This is a caciotta flavored with saffron, so saffron both in powder form and in grains. You can see the red marks where the grains are present.
Poi per conservare il formaggio noi usiamo questa pergamena naturale che non ha nessun trattamento chimico, è puro latte di cellulosa e favorisce, vedi, la caciotta asciuga benissimo come se fosse una seconda buccia.
So to conserve and keep the cheese, Francesco uses a natural parchment, natural paper, so it kind of lets the cheese breathe inside the refrigerator without creating any molds. Francesco just told us the story of these dried ricotte. So these dried ricotte are used on pasta instead of parmesan, and it's something that his aunt used to make many years ago. She used to come here, pick up the milk, make her own cheese, and then from the whey of the cheese she would make the ricotta, and she would be the only one who had the patience to dry it and age it the right way. So in a homage to his aunt, Francesco has continued making it, and he has now made it for us. So I just ran a 10-kilometer race, and I can say wasted it after this visit to Francesco Savoia's cheese shop and dairy. So with the cannolo, I'm gonna say goodbye to everyone. Obviously, if you like the video, if you want more sweet content, please subscribe to the channel.